Hello and welcome to Quadcast. I'm Emily and I'm hosting today and I'm joined by Tim, and we are going to talk today about website development projects. So we have been working on quite a few of these lately, so thought it would be a good opportunity to have a bit of a discussion around them and hopefully bring a little bit of useful information to you listening. So I've got a set of questions as kind of prompts, either things that we've been asked previously or things that we think might be useful for people to know a little bit more about. So yeah, we'll just run through these and see where the discussion goes. So hi Tim.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Beautiful sunny day outside.
Yes, and there's a combine in the fields next to us, which hopefully we won't hear.
It's all very exciting. It's working on the shop floor of nature.
Yeah, okay. So, first and foremost, what sort of development projects typically do we undertake here?
Generally, it's WordPress rebuilds or builds from scratch. We will fit other bits to existing websites as well if people need new features or functionality, want to extend their content. We do a bit of pre-commerce. We don't generally do e-commerce as such, but we build stuff which acts as quote systems or ways for our clients to bring new customers to them and to buy more complex products even. Yeah, all sorts of different stuff. We tend to build on WordPress, but we have done other stuff on various CMSs of different sizes and shapes, from fairly big corporate ones to quite obscure small little ones which you don't often see kicking around. We've got some experience with Wix and Weebly at a push. We've played with Squarespace, but WordPress is our general comfort zone.
So typically we use a WordPress Themify installation. So what do you want to speak a little bit about Themify specifically and why we recommend that?
Yeah, we've been working with Themify as a page builder since about 2015, I think it says on our license. It's always under development, it's pretty stable, and it does what we need it to do. And obviously after nearly 10 years, we know how it works very well and can make it do pretty much what we want it to do. So again, it's a part of our thing of trying to choose platforms where we don't have to say no to clients, that's not possible, or have to charge a huge amount of money.
Yeah, so it's really flexible in how you can present content on a page various different ways, almost an unlimited amount of ways. And it's also really easy to use, it's very user friendly. I've taught clients of ours how to use it various times, and they're now making small updates, content updates on the websites quite easily without sort of much technical support needed from us.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically trying to lower the barriers between clients and the wider internet, so you don't want to make it difficult for people to make updates. The barriers could either be financial, because it's like really expensive to get something done, or technical. So Themify lets non-technical users make some fairly fundamental changes to their own websites without breaking it, which is a bonus.
So I mentioned at the start we've been working on a number of development projects we've done kind of in the last 2 years, and Tim and I have been sort of collaborating on these. So we've got quite a good kind of working relationship in terms of I know what Tim needs for his side of things, he knows what I need from a production and population side of things. So it works quite well together. So I thought we'd just kind of go into a little bit of detail with what our specific roles are in development projects and how we sort of collaborate together between us and with the clients. So, I mean, obviously, with any project, the first stage is the planning and technical scoping stage, which is very much a collaboration between us and the client. So we'll have like a number of meetings to kind of work out what is required from the brand and what is required from a functionality point of view. And we'll start by assessing the current website and also look at what additional functionality we might want to bring in. So typically I'll take a project management role and will be kind of the client-facing person throughout the project, whereas Tim is responsible for everything kind of behind the scenes, or the writing of the code, configuring functionality, although Tim also has a lot of contact with the client as well.
Yeah, it just helps sometimes to talk directly to the client to explain things and why things are happening a certain way.
Yeah.
It's also useful because to try and make sure that we're using the same words for the same things, because obviously we're experts with web builds and things like that and SEO, and our clients are experts in their field and they might not necessarily use the same words to describe what they want. So it's getting it down to make sure we've got a mutual understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, so the whole process is really very collaborative, and we've been able to kind of fine-tune our side of things over the years and over the projects we've done, so we kind of know how best to make certain things happen, and we can kind of apply that for each project that we do.
Yeah, it's quite useful when you talk to any clients, because obviously we know what's possible and we might have suggestions to make to them, so had you thought of this or that? They might not actually realise if these things are practically possible or coming within their budget even. It's quite often the case that like somebody asks for a feature which they think's going to be a really, really, really quick fix, and it turns out to be an absolute nightmare, but then they ask for something they think is going to be a nightmare, but it actually takes about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So how do we go about speccing and quoting for a project? So I think I mentioned previously, but we'd start by assessing the current website content and functionality, and we'd collaborate with the client on what they want to achieve and anything additional that is required. And then from there, we kind of work out budgets and set a budget for the project, taking into account all the functionality and the production required into building it. So typically it can be quite tricky, can't it, quoting a website development project, because there's always, I think you can never really account for everything. There's always a few unexpected things that may arise. There's always some questions that kind of pop up along the line that need answering. But typically I think we do quite well with it. Yeah,
I mean, as the site evolves, things might suddenly occur to either us or our client that, why don't we try that? And we're very open to that.
Yeah.
We're not completely tied down to the spec that we've written in the meantime.
Yeah, I think we are very flexible in that we tweak things as we go, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, with the way that web technology evolves, I use the word evolves again because it is under that constant process of change, you'll find that something that may not have been possible 12 months ago has suddenly become available in all browsers, sort of ways of laying things out. A new tool might appear in the CMS, somebody might come up with a new plugin which becomes available.
Yeah.
And we're definitely not averse to taking all that stuff on board to make things better.
I think one thing that springs to mind is one of the projects we've been working on, we used a data importer tool, didn't we, that was fairly new on the market.
Yeah, I mean, we're always on the lookout for tools and techniques to speed things up, make things more efficient from our point of view and the client's point of view. So whether that's like a new module within the CMS, or as Emily said, an importer which can, instead of like adding things one by one, we can just like pull a whole slew of things in from a database or CSV file. So basically we're looking for efficiency in delivery and maintenance for the project. So what do you think has been our most challenging project, or most challenging part of a specific project? Or is there a part that is challenging for every project, do you think? I think probably the most challenging project we've had over the last few years was a request for an e-commerce site which was going to be built to allow people to place orders for pickup on a Christmas shop. They'd been let down by their previous developers, and we needed to get it all ready, done, dusted, out, tested, and we had about 2 weeks. And we did it. I think the most nerve-wracking thing about it was we wouldn't know for sure that it had all worked exactly as planned until pretty much the day before Christmas, because people were ordering 6 weeks in advance of the big day, but only picking this stuff up on the day before Christmas. So if the ordering system had gone wrong, then there'd have been a lot of people with empty bags and empty tables. So that was a bit of a stressor, but it worked. We got it out there. It looked good, worked fine, and everybody was happy with it. So that was So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why we tend not to deal with e-commerce very frequently, just because we are a small team, and when you are dealing with e-commerce, you very much need that 24-hour support almost, don't you? Yeah, I think we all quite like our weekends here. Obviously, if something does go wrong with the site, and we do get a call on our emergency line, we will fix it. Absolutely. Over a weekend. But like a typical content-based site rather than a transactional site generally won't cause a massive headache on a Saturday afternoon. So I didn't have any involvement on that project. You pretty much did that yourself, didn't you? I don't think anybody else. Yeah, we just picked up Shopify, kicked it around a lot. Fortunately, one of the client team was pretty technically savvy as well. So between us, we hit the 2-week launch, and very pleased. Yeah, and they were pleased as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think one of the most challenging projects was a client so they have a huge website, which is essentially 6 websites in one. So 4 different types of branding, but kind of 6 microsites under kind of an umbrella brand. So this was a kind of redevelopment that we did last year. And it was challenging because it had challenging navigation that we needed to kind of really get right in terms of kind of structuring the site and for user experience. There was also lots of stakeholders involved client side. So for me, that was a little challenging, just because trying to keep everybody happy, trying to keep everybody meeting deadlines and whatnot. And also it was a very large website, and every single page needed something doing to it in some way. So it was a huge project, but it went really successfully. And obviously we're an SEO agency first and foremost, and so SEO is really important in all the projects that we do, making sure that a relaunch goes smoothly, making sure there's no kind of disruption in terms of keyword rankings and that sort of thing. And from that point of view, that one particular big project went really smoothly and has only continued to go up from there, really. Yeah, I think a lot of clients do expect a bit of a rankings bump on the launch of a new site, but we do generally manage to make things go without a hitch. We know what we're doing with that sort of thing. So when we launched 3 weeks ago, we were looking at the graphs this morning, and you really can hardly even see where the launch happened. Yeah, and then we're working on another project at the moment, which is quite complex in different ways. So it's essentially a pre-commerce site, and there's lots of different product options. So it's using a WooCommerce setup, but without the e-commerce element to it. So there's no kind of transaction taking place. It's just submitted to a quote, basically. So yeah, that's quite challenging, just kind of getting the configuration right in terms of the product setup. But just making sure the taxonomy is right in terms of categorization and tagging, finding out what's useful. So there's the difference with the categories, tags and attributes of all the different products, and making sure that makes sense. Again, just trying to make sure that updating products and adding new products doesn't require anybody to have to refer to a massive manual of how to do stuff. Yeah. So again, maintainability after the launch is very, very important to us, because if you can't maintain a website, it tends to stagnate and become less useful, slide down the rankings, and nobody wants that.
So what are the most important things that we need to consider when we take on a development project? So, like I said before, first and foremost, we're an SEO agency. So this is something that we really take into consideration. And I think it stands us apart from some traditional developers as well. So we'll do we'll do the research that we need to do to know kind of where the website's performing now, what we need to do to maintain or improve the performance of where it is now, what's currently not working in terms of, some of the people who have come to us, they've had websites which have had so many problems, haven't they? So many issues in terms of like the technical side of things that we've been able to kind of rectify as part of the redevelopment, which has then given them a really good platform to then kind of build upon.
Yeah, I mean, we get sites to look at where it's been maybe built on a proprietary CMS, which might have been brilliant at the time, but the original developer has long since disappeared off the scene, and versions of PHP, methods of doing stuff, and all those things change over time, and so it effectively bricks itself. Yeah. It just becomes unusual. We also get obscure CMSs which drop out of development as well. They'll develop security holes, they're just unusable. One of the reasons we do, going back to the WordPress thing, is one of the reasons we do use WordPress, because it is always under development. The builder we use is always under development, and we've got no reason to believe that that will go away anytime soon. Yeah. So if we build a site, if for whatever reason it needs to go somewhere else, it can be picked up, moved, dropped on another server, and it doesn't require a huge amount of technical knowledge to keep it going afterwards. Whereas if you've got a proprietarily built content management system, you might find that if you move it and the database isn't exactly right, or the move doesn't go well, or whatever, it just completely ceases to function.
So another thing we need to take into consideration is tracking and reporting requirements, just to make sure that there's continuity from kind of old site to new, make sure that any kind of bespoke tracking that has been implemented is followed through. And then another key thing we need to take into consideration is integrations with other systems. So we frequently integrate with different sort of online systems through the sites that we do.
Yeah,
I'm not sure we've come across many
issues. There's nothing we haven't been able to do. I mean, whether it's something like fairly complex, like hooking up to a Microsoft user management system, like Active Directory or something like that, which we've had to do for an intranet, or something relatively straightforward like linking up to somebody's MailChimp installation so that we can feed from our forms straight into their CRM. There's always ways and means of doing it, and we haven't been beaten yet.
Okay, so I thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about the tools that we find useful when we're working on projects. So from a project management perspective, one of the tools that I use a lot is Trello. We found it.
Makes my heart sink.
We found it.
That's where all the problems are listed.
Yeah. We found it the most useful tool for kind of listing snags, if you like, that need fixing. We can add screenshots, we can add notes, we can add attachment, files and stuff. Yeah, and we have a set of columns, so we know, we've got the whole team sort of collaborating, and we can assign things to different people. So from my point of view, it's a really useful tool.
Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward enough to use, so sometimes we can even let clients in so they can make their own notes or see what's going on with progress and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not over-featured, but it does exactly what we need it to do.
You're a big fan of Firefox Developer Edition, aren't you?
Yeah, I've used Firefox since it was in its first beta back in the early 2000s, and their Dev Edition's got loads of useful tools, the developer tools inspector and all that sort of stuff. I find it a lot easier and friendlier to use than Chrome's dev tools, so that's what I stick with. Yeah, so if you find something you like, stick with it generally. But we obviously do test the site across all the major browsers, Safari, Edge, Chrome in various flavours, and also on mobiles. So
yeah, VS Code, files in at Affinity.
Yeah, Visual Studio Code is what I write the code in. So we create child themes for WordPress, which means that I will write styles against all the modules and things that come with the page builder. So I'll write my Sass into CSS in VS Code. Totally reliable. It's a Microsoft product. Sits on my Mac quite happily though. And as I'm fairly old school, been doing this an awfully long time, I still use FileZilla to whip files backwards and forwards from me in the server. And Affinity is what I tend to use for making graphics, editing images and all that sort of stuff. It's a really, really cut down version of Photoshop, I guess. It's as close as you can get to the old fireworks. I think I probably mentioned this in a previous podcast, but yeah, Photoshop's way too over-featured for what I generally need.
Yeah.
But the Affinity suite, Designer mainly, you buy the license and it's yours, in rather than paying 50 odd quid a month for the all the stuff, all the bells and whistles that comes with the Adobe suite. So that's what I go for.
So a tool that I use a lot is MyMeister for kind of visually mapping the architecture of a website and planning where content will sit. So it's a really useful tool to give you that visual, and you can then sit documents. So we use Google Documents. We can sit those behind it to include kind of the content for that specific page. And again, that's something that we kind of collaborate on between client teams as well. We share content via Google Documents for us to collaborate on in that way. So yeah, that's a really useful tool. And Screaming Frog is a really good one for picking up information.
Great product, daft name, as Andrew's going to say. I think we go through if the site exists beforehand, we'll go through it, pick up all the URLs of the HTML files, which we can then spit out into a CSV, which we can bring into MindMeister to show us what the site structure looks like, and if we need to move stuff around after that, that's really, really useful. It also shows us where errors might be. It does so much stuff. It's a lot of fun to use. Some great visualization tools as well. And then once the site's launched, we'll run the site through the frog again, looking for broken links, missing bits and bobs of metadata, if we've hideously forgotten to put an H1 in a page or anything like that. So it flags all that stuff up and gives us a load of reports which we can then act upon.
Yeah. Okay, so the last question I had written down was what happens after a project is completed and the website is launched. So in pretty much all cases, we will continue working with the client after a launch of their site. We'll continue working with them kind of on a monthly retainer basis. But essentially what we'll do is some very close monitoring of visitor information, the data that's coming into Google Analytics to see how people are interacting with the website, how visitor data is looking kind of, prior to the redevelopment, how it's looking year on year and so on. We'll also closely monitor the ranking data and make sure that our keyword rankings remain stable, and we'll also closely monitor conversion data as well, whatever that might be for the particular client.
Websites are never finished. That's the main thing. It's like it'll get launched, but it's not finished. Because if it sits there completely stagnant for years and years, that's really not any use to anybody.
Which is why we tend to work with the clients with a monthly retainer to then move on to SEO and content development, just to build on the rankings that they've already got and so forth, and increase conversion. I
think the sort of concept of buying a website from somebody is not great. It's an ongoing project. If you have gone to a pure development agency, and they go, thanks, that's great, cheery bye. The project should continue somewhere else. You should be speaking to somebody like us to tweak, fine tune, optimize, and we're about to get onto the second Google core update of the year. There was a massive one in March. We're expecting one in the next few weeks. So things change all the time. So leaving a website alone after launch is never a good idea, because it won't work forever, no matter how well it was built in the first place.
And typically we carry out monthly reporting for all our clients, and our recommendations for upcoming activity is based on the data that is coming through. So it's a constant evolution, isn't it? Tied in, of course, with objectives from the business that we're working with as well.
Everything we do is data driven. We don't guess. As if we make a suggestion, it'll be for a reason. We can probably point to that reason somewhere on one or many graphs.
What's been the most enjoyable project that you've worked on?
Blimey, that's a half. Most enjoyable one. I suppose it's also the stressful one, isn't it? The one that it was a total panic, and but it worked, and I guess it was turned us all into Christmas pixies, because everybody got to have their Christmas dinner. So
that's all the questions and notes that I had written down. Is there anything else you want to add, Tim?
Not particularly. We're just saying we've been doing this for an awfully long time. Our processes and procedures have evolved, continuing to evolve. We're not rigid or set in stone, and we'll continue to change the way we work to take best advantage of the tools and technologies to get people's content out in front of the people who need to see it, because that's what the job's about. After all, it's publishing content.
Great. Well, we'll end it there for today. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll speak to you soon.